The Boulder Punishment. In Corinth, there was a king named Sisyphus, famous for being clever, maybe too clever. He loved tricking both mortals and gods, and for a while, it worked. Until when Thanatos, the god of death, came to chain him and drag him to the underworld, Sisyphus asked, "How do those chains even work?" Thanatos, not the brightest that day, demonstrated. The moment he did, Sisyphus snapped the shackles on him. With death itself trapped, no one on earth could die. Soldiers fought endless battles with no corpses to show for it. The old and sick just kept suffering. Even Ares grew furious. War without death was boring. So he stormed in, freed Thanatos, and handed Sisyphus over. But Sisyphus wasn't finished. After his death, he convinced Persephone to let him return to the living, claiming his wife hadn't given him a proper burial. Once he stepped back into the sunlight, he simply refused to return. In the end, Hermes had to drag him back by force. For all this arrogance, Sisyphus was given a punishment worthy of his tricks: a hill, a boulder, and no escape. Every time he rolled the massive stone to the top, it slipped from his grasp and rolled back down. So he started again, and again, and again. An eternity of effort with nothing to show for it. The nailing punishment. Zahak was a prince from Arabia, rich, proud, and hungry for power. When Persia's great king, Jamshid, grew arrogant and lost the divine light that made him worthy to rule, his kingdom weakened. That's when Ahriman, the spirit of evil, found his opening. Disguised as a wise advisor, Ahriman whispered to Zahak that he could take the Persian throne if he dared enough. He helped him kill his own father, King Murdas, by digging a hidden pit in the garden where the old man prayed. With his father dead and Persia leaderless, Zahak invaded and took Jamshid's throne. But the devil wanted more than a king. He wanted a vessel. Appearing again as a cook, Ahriman fed Zahak fine feasts for 3 days. When Zahak offered a reward, the cook smiled and said, "Only let me kiss your shoulders." Zahak agreed, and the moment Ahriman's lips touched his shoulders, he vanished. From the 2 spots burst black serpents, alive and hissing. No blade or healer could remove them. Then Ahriman, disguised again as a physician, returned with a cure to feed the serpents 2 human brains each day. And so Zahak obeyed, turning Persia into a kingdom of slaughter, ruled by 1,000 years of terror. At last, a hero named Feradun rose, rightful heir to Jamshid's line. With Kaveh the blacksmith, whose sons had been taken to feed the serpents, he led the people in revolt. Feradun struck Zahak down with his ox-headed mace. But as he prepared to end him, the angel Surush appeared and forbade it, commanding him to bind the tyrant instead with ropes made from a lion's skin. The Serpent King was dragged to Mount Damavand, deep within the mountain. Zahak was nailed to the rock, each limb pinned forever still. There he remains bound in darkness, awake and waiting for the end of time. The Serpent's Punishment. Loki was the trickster of Asgard, clever, silver-tongued, and tolerated by the gods until mischief turned into malice. Trouble began with Balder, the shining son of Odin and Frigg. Beloved by all, Balder seemed untouchable. His mother had taken oaths from every element, beast, and stone that none would harm him. Fire would not burn him. Steel would not cut him. Even sickness turned aside. The gods made a game of it, hurling weapons, laughing as each weapon bounced harmlessly off him. But Frigg had overlooked one thing: a small sprig of mistletoe. So young, she thought it too harmless to swear. Loki noticed. That was enough. He fashioned it into a dart and turned to Balder's blind brother, Höder, who sat aside from the game. "Why let them have all the fun?" Loki murmured, pressing the dart into his hand. "Aim here. I'll guide you." Höder, unsuspecting, cast the missile. It struck true. For the first time, Balder did not laugh. He fell silent, lifeless, as Asgard froze in shock. The gods knew at once who was behind it. Loki, of course. But before they could seize him, He slipped away disguised as salmon hiding in a stream. At last they caught him, and punishment followed swiftly. His sons were brought forth. Vali was transformed into a wolf, and, in madness, tore his brother Narfi apart. From Narfi's entrails, the gods forged chains, binding Loki to a cavern of stone. Above him, they hung a serpent whose venom dripped onto his face. Sigyn, his wife, held a bowl to catch it. But whenever she turned away, the drops struck, and Loki writhed so fiercely that the earth itself quaked, bound to suffer until Ragnarok itself broke his bonds. The Firewheel Punishment. Ixion was a mortal king of Thessaly with a reputation for being, let's just say, not the best dinner guest. His trouble started when he murdered his own father-in-law to dodge a wedding payment. Such a crime didn't just stain his honor, it isolated him completely. Even fellow rulers, who were no strangers to treachery, wanted nothing to do with him. Ixion became a man cut off from both family and allies, left to wander in disgrace. Banished, Ixion had no one left, until Zeus did something unusual. Instead of frying him with a thunderbolt, Zeus took pity, purified him of his blood guilt, and invited him to Olympus. A grand feast was held in his honor. But instead of gratitude, Ixion's gaze wandered straight to Hera. Yes, Zeus's own wife, the queen of Olympus herself. Zeus noticed. Of course he did. But instead of hurling a thunderbolt, he set a trap. He crafted a cloud in Hera's likeness, a living phantom named Nephili, and Ixion fell for it completely. He thought he had seduced the queen of Olympus, but in reality, he was embracing a cloud. To make matters worse, that bizarre union gave rise to Centaurus. Ixion's betrayal couldn't go unanswered. For daring to lust after Hera and betraying divine hospitality, he was strapped to a great spinning wheel engulfed in blazing fire. It blazed and turned without rest, hurling him through the depths of Tartarus. No pause, no escape. Just an endless, infernal rotation of fire and torment.